Hey everyone, this is your girl SolieSims and we're doing another landscaping tutorial. This time we're doing it in this particular lot in Willow Creek simply because I love the idea of having this big tree in front here. I enjoyed that it had that shadow that it's casting here, which is just perfect I think for the curb appeal style that I want to do with work with today, which happens to be the overgrown garden curb appeal cottage style build, well, landscaping that we'll be doing today. So this is just an empty shell that I created just for the particular purpose of this build, because like I said, we're focusing on curb appeal today, and I put out some plants that I'm going to be working with. We're going to be doing a repetitive pattern, I guess you could say, and I'm following some of the original plants and shrubbery that is already in the area. So we're going to be doing a play on that. We do have these filler plants we're going to be working with, as well all of these others, and you can always just put your plants out in advance of the time that you actually need it. So we do have indoor plants as well. Well, I wanted to use something that looked a little bit like the trees, the potted trees, and these ones came in perfectly. I am going to be using a lot of the shift key in here as well, which helps to copy an item, but this does not work for debug items, guys. It only works for items in the regular build and buy catalog, no debug items. So I wanted, like I said, to go with something like this, the plants. So I went with those indoor plants that has the natural base or terrarium in the bottom. We're going to start with the paving, which will lead straight to our front door, as well as the gate entrance, which will help guide us and give us an idea of the space that we're going to be working around. In hindsight, what I think I should have done was done the gating that I wanted to, and I did the gating after I did all the placement of the flowers. So like I said, guys, it's just a matter of repeating the patterns that we already have, or repeating the same styles that we already have. These I'm placing down, these are called filler plants, and it just helps give the garden a fuller look. So it doesn't necessarily need the terrain painting, but I still incorporated it anyway, because it's always good to just, you never know when you have to do those close-up shots, guys. It's always good to and handy to have. For the most part, I do play with the grid on, but eventually I do take it off as well, because it does help, I think, make a nice smooth space. This plant, I absolutely love it, guys. I love this plant. It comes in various different shades, but because of the style of what we're going to use today, and because of the colors of the leaves, etc., of the other plants that we're going to use today, I went with a darker green one. And as you can see, I'm just sizing them down once or twice depending on where it's going to be placed, and if I want it to be like we call it an accent piece, or if we want it to be a filler piece. Now we also have to take into consideration the size of what it is that we're going to be placing down. So of course, if it's going to be a certain size, we can work within the range of the sizes of the shrubbery that we're using. We're not going to go too big, it's going to be too wide, it's not going to suit into that space. Now guys, you can always copy this exact style, or you can make it your own. You can incorporate your own colors, you can draw inspiration from it. This tutorial is not to tell you this is how you to do it. It's just a guide, like I said, to help you, give you an idea of what is that you can do to achieve the look that you want to go for. So I basically just sprayed because like I said, we're going for the cottage look, and I always feel like the flowered terrain paint looks like a nice cottony, not cottony, what am I thinking, cotton, a nice cottagey type look. As well as that particular chair, I love that chair, guys. If you're going to go for a sitting option, another thing that is good to implement, I know it is a rug, we do have the circular one, we also have the rectangular one, and I went with the rectangular option this time around. I did it. I sized it down a couple of times, and I felt when I was placing it that it was not going to give me the design that I wanted. So I sized it down once more, and I went ahead and resized the others just to match this particular one, just to ensure that I get the design that I was looking for. Almost like stone pathways curving around the corner. I just absolutely adore these two particular mats, like I said, guys, simply because it looks a lot like stone, and it makes it easier to design certain things, pathways, etc., with that design in mind. Again, I'm going to be using the filler plants. I'm going to make them very large. I love using them, guys. I really do, because it takes up so much space. Landscaping, like I said, is not something that I enjoy doing, but it is a necessary evil if we're going to go ahead and try to make our bills look a little bit more alive, a little bit more real. Another thing that you can do is set the different times of days. It helps to gauge where you're going to place what, for one, and how it's going to look in different lighting settings, especially, guys, when you're going to place lighting in your garden at night. You want to make sure that it illuminates the spaces that you want it to illuminate. Now, as you guys will notice, I use a lot of different shades of pinks, and that is quite okay as well. And another thing I'm going to touch base in probably in my next video is how to use the color wheel in your landscaping, just to get a better idea of what colors goes where in terms of complementary colors, or even using colors on the opposite end of the spectrum that goes well together. Another thing is putting in, like I said, I'm putting in a lot of the pink flowers, but you don't want to overrun your garden with one particular type of color, especially in batches. So this is why I implemented the white. I think it's called geranium. I'm not even sure. I'm not a plant person, guys. So this is where I implemented the geranium to because it is white, to kick off and just add a little bit of contrast as well. These are another set of little shrubs that I absolutely love. It does come in different colors. It comes in pink, blue, yellow, as well as the white, I believe. And it's just good as a filler plant, or you can size it up and make it into this huge shrubbery. It's really, really nice. I like it quite a lot, guys. But as you can see, the style that we're going for is already coming together. It does look like it's a cotton, I keep saying cottony, guys. it does look like a cottage type of build, and that works fine. The reason why now that I put the line of white flowers in there, it is to separate the garden itself from the road itself, or the curb itself. I will be putting in a fence, and you guys will see in a little while. It's just right now we're working on filling in the spaces in between, because we've kind of marked off what is going to go where, and how best to try and fit in everything. So the space that we have decided that we're going to work with is filled up, and it looks like an attractive place. It doesn't look like anything is just thrown out there, so it just looks a little bit fuller. Like I said, guys, if there's any particular style of garden that you want, if we can do modern, we can do desert, we can do a stone garden. If that is what it is that you want, we can go ahead and do that. It is totally fine. I like how this looks already just as it is. I do want to bring in little touches of being lived in here, and of course I'm going to put out an maybe not this particular tray. We'll go with the one with the drinks and the glasses instead. So it looks like a couple were sitting out there. They probably came to sit there to watch the sun go down, or watch the kids play in the yard, or whatever it is, and they left their drinks out there. If you do have the tool mod, you can also just use these as cushions, just as it is. You can change around the color however it is you want, or you can you could have flipped it with the tool mod to make it look more like side cushions that were just placed over here. Now I'm going to go ahead and look for a fence that matches this brick that we used up on the house itself, the building itself, and we found one in this one. You could have used also like a picket fence style. That would have worked as well. But I like the idea of the short brick to match the style of the height, sorry, of the shrubbery that we already have. Now you can see, guys, of course I did not take into consideration, I could have made this a little bit smaller in regards to the length. It went one tile wider, and that is quite okay. What I did to fill this up is just use a lot of the filler plants just in that space here, and that is quite okay. You can or you cannot, it's up to you really, if you want to fill in the back space if it doesn't quite match up. But I opted to do it just to and I just copied some of the bigger shrubs that we used initially to just fill up the space in the back without having to do too much, because it wasn't that much. As you can see, the filler plants already did so much of just making the space look full as it was. I opted to do the 2 trees instead of the 3 trees that I originally had because the space was already full. And like I said, to bring in a little bit of light and to make this more cottagey, this particular lantern I felt suited the style of this particular space. Guys. Now I'm looking at the lighting just to see, like I was telling you guys earlier, how the path is illuminated, how the space looks. I feel that it's not a very good one, so it's not enough rather, so I added another lantern and it suits the space. Now we're moving on to the next part of the build, the other side. We're going to put a lot of the filler plants just all around, and I really like how it takes up like it takes up four spaces and it suits really well. These, of course, like I said, these are filler plants, and it's going to help bring and tie in not only what we use on the other side to this particular side, but it helps fill in a lot of the spaces as well. We're going to go ahead and copy this particular type of tree or something as close to it as possible. We do have this one in a smaller one. Not quite what we were looking for, so I went with this one instead. You can always implement plants, not just plants, but rocks as well if you wanted to. I didn't, but I just placed the same shrub that we have next to the tree on the other side, closer to it, and I simply took just copied some of what we already have, and I just did it like in 1-2 drops. So there was a bigger, small, a bigger, small. That's what I mean when I say 1-2 drops. In the space over here, we're going to make this it could have gone in the corner, and initially that's how I did it, but then I decided I preferred the way that it looked best on the outside coming out to the curb. And guys, you can always do this, you can always play around with where you're placing your shrubbery to what suits your eyes better, what looks good to you. It's totally okay. That is completely fine. I am going to, of course, just copy this. I'm not going to do too much. I don't want it to be too busy on this side because we've done so much on the other side. Yes, it is an overgrown cottage look, but we don't want to overpower it, and then it just doesn't look as attractive as it could have been because it is just too much, you know, on that one side. So I didn't do too much in there, and that's basically it, guys. This is what it looks like. So we're approaching the screenshots right now just so you can see what it all looks like when you're at the road angle, as well as closer to the inside walking in. So you can see, guys, it does look like it's just this overgrown little cottage garden. And that's it. Of course, I'm willing to hear whatever it is that you guys have to say. If you did like this video, don't forget to like, don't forget to comment, don't forget to subscribe, and I'm hoping to hear from you guys. Bye.